How to prepare for possible ICE detention or arrest. This is a video about what you can do to prepare for possible ICE detention, and what to do if you or a loved one is arrested or detained by ICE. There is a lot of information in this video. It's all really important. Take your time watching it and share with your family and friends. Before we get started, here are the 3 most important things to remember. Don't sign anything that ICE gives you unless you've spoken to a lawyer about it. ICE is allowed to lie to you. Memorize the phone number of a trusted person in the U.S., as well as your A number if you have one. Gather the originals or copies of all of your immigration and identification documents together and keep them in a safe place where a trusted person can easily find them if you or a loved one are detained. Here's a quick overview of the different rights that immigrants have in the U.S. This information is widely available online as well. Check the comment section of this video for links and more information. In the U.S., immigration status is basically the right to have certain rights. In the U.S., the president is generally in charge of immigration. There are important immigration laws in the U.S. that the president cannot change, but immigration courts can change how those laws are explained and used. People with different types of immigration status have different rights. If you have no immigration status, you have the right to stay silent if an ICE officer asks you questions. You do not always have to show identification to an ICE officer. Immigrants at the U.S. border can be asked to show proof of their immigration status, and you can choose whether or not to obey. But note that refusing to show proof of your status could be a reason for detention. If you have applied for asylum or other types of immigration relief or immigration status, then you must show your identification if an immigration officer asks. All people in the U.S. have these general rights. You do not have to let any ICE or law officer into your home without a warrant signed by a U.S. judge. If ICE demands that you sign any papers, you have the right to refuse to sign until you receive and understand a copy of the document in your native language. You have the right to refuse to sign anything offered to you by ICE. ICE is allowed to lie to you about a document, so you do not have to listen to them. Also, employers can usually make a rule that only one person, like the boss, can talk to ICE for that workplace. And staff should tell ICE officers this rule and politely refuse to let them into private areas or access things like computers unless they have a court warrant. You can learn more about your rights by checking the comments section of this video. The government is not allowed to violate any of the rights that a person has as part of their current status, but ICE and other parts of the government do not always follow their own rules. So when ICE or the government violates your rights, it is important to know what to do. When rights are violated. Under the current U.S. president, it is not a question of if your rights will be violated, but it's a question of when your rights will be violated by ICE or other parts of the U.S. immigration system. Right now, the biggest way that the government is violating people's rights is by ICE arresting and detaining people using illegal methods or reasons. Many of these illegal arrests and detentions can be challenged by you or a lawyer, but it can be hard to know what to do. For now, please know that attorneys must obey certain legal rules that only allow them to take certain cases and ask for certain things from the U.S. government in charge of immigration. And these rules can sometimes change overnight. If you or a loved one is arrested or detained, here's the most important thing to remember. Unless you have spoken to a lawyer, you do not have to sign anything that ICE gives you. ICE will try anything to get people to sign papers that mean you agree to your own deportation. ICE is allowed to lie to you and to tell you that the paper is something good when it is actually something bad. You can refuse to sign a document that is in a language that you cannot read or don't understand. ICE may yell, scream, force you to stay in a small room, or even refuse to give you food or water unless you sign their forms. You still do not have to sign anything from ICE. You have the right to refuse to sign until you can review the document with an attorney. Here are some helpful resources that you can use in case you or a loved one is detained. All these links are available in the comments of this video. Immigration Court Case Lookup. This website allows you to use a person's A number, if they have one, and their country where they were born to look up the most up-to-date information about that person's immigration case. This site is available in English and Spanish. ICE Detainee Locator. This website allows you to use a person's A number, if they have one, or their name and birth date, plus the country where they were born, to find where a person is being held by ICE. It is important to know that this information may not be up to date if a person is currently being moved from one location to another, or if they haven't been registered into the ICE system yet, or if they are being held in a detention center that is run by a U.S. state instead of an ICE detention center. When a person has arrived and gets registered at an official ICE detention center in another state, they will then appear on the ICE Detainee Locator. If ICE is holding a person in a jail or prison run by any state, you should be able to find them using that state's Department of Corrections resources. Here are some things you can do to prepare ahead of time in case you or a loved one is detained by ICE. Gather original copies of all of your immigration documents and keep them in a safe place where a trusted person can find them in case you are detained. It is best to have the original copies of these documents if possible. It is also a good idea to carry photocopies of these documents with you in case you need to show them to ICE, but leaving the originals in a safe place. Paper photocopies are better than keeping photos of these documents on your phone because ICE is often allowed to search your phone. If a lawyer is able to help with your case, they will need to see a copy of every single paper or message you have received about your immigration cases. If you have lost some documents, try to get another copy to keep with your papers. Another good tip is that if you think you will have contact with ICE or the government, tell someone you trust what time they should expect you to check in afterward. Make copies of your identification documents and keep them in a safe place with your immigration papers. If you are detained, ICE will take your phone and any belongings that you have with you when you are arrested. This may include your identification documents in your wallet, like your passport, driver's license, or work authorization card. After an arrest or detention, ICE even loses these documents sometimes. It's a good idea to make a photocopy or to take a clear and well-lit photo of your identification documents. Make sure that the copies of the photos are with your immigration papers or with a trusted person, because you will not be able to access your own phone if it is taken by ICE in an arrest. Memorize your A number if you have one. Many people who have had interaction with the U.S. government or U.S. immigration will have a 9-digit number called an A number. Technically, it stands for alien number. Not everyone who has interacted with U.S. immigration has an A number, but you can check all of your immigration documents to see if you have one. This number will allow attorneys and your loved ones to look up a lot of information about you and your case, and to look up your location if you are detained by ICE. Memorize the phone number of a trusted friend or family member. If you are detained, ICE will take your phone and any belongings that you have with you when you are arrested. You will not be able to look up phone numbers on your phone. Memorize the phone number of a trusted person so you can call them from inside of a detention center. If you or your family has a lawyer helping with any part of your immigration case, memorize their phone number. Even if the attorney cannot help you with your ICE detention case, it is always better to call a lawyer and let them know that you are detained and where you are being held. You always have the right to speak to a lawyer before answering any questions by ICE or police. ICE will act like you do not have that right, so it will be up to you to stay strong and to refuse to sign anything that they give you without speaking to a lawyer. Begin to collect documents that show that you are a trustworthy person and that you have deep connections to your family and community. If a person is detained by ICE, ICE will usually start a legal case to try to deport the person. This can be a long process, and ICE tries to force everyone to stay in detention for the entire amount of time it takes for the case to happen. A person in ICE detention can ask a judge for permission to wait for their court date outside of detention. This is called bond, and it is the same as the idea of bail in the U.S. The judge can set a certain amount of money that the person must pay. If the person pays the money, then they can be released from ICE detention, and they can wait for their court date at home with their community instead of in detention. However, this process is under attack by the government, and the rules are changing quickly and often. Bond may not be an option for many types of immigration cases. For a judge to agree to bond, the judge has to believe two different things. that the person is not a danger to the community, and that the person will not skip their court date when it's time for their next hearing. To show these two things, families can begin to gather information and evidence that would show a judge proof of these two things. Here are some examples. A letter from your boss explaining that you have a job, that you show up for work, and that you are a trustworthy person. A letter from any community organizations that you participate in to show that you are connected to your community and you will not leave or hide before your next court date. This could include your church or other community groups. Letters from friends, family, neighbors, and leaders in your community explaining that you are a safe and trustworthy person or are otherwise firmly connected to your community. Proof of a fixed residential address, if available. There has been a lot of information in this video. Please watch and rewatch it so you are clear about what you can do and can share with others. We're living through a very frightening time. Please remember to take care of yourself, your family, and your community.